What's up, everybody? My name is Holly. Welcome to Traumedy Hour. Today, I'm coming to you fresh off of a hike. I went hiking this morning with my dog, which I do quite often. Today, when I was hiking, I was alone for most of it. There was other people that I ran into on the trail, but I was by myself with my dog. And when I'm hiking, I don't listen to anything. I don't take headphones. Sometimes, like if I'm doing a trail run and I want to listen to music, I'll take my music for like a run, but I don't listen to anything when I'm hiking. I like to listen to the wind and the birds, and I like to be aware of my surroundings, and I just like to have quiet nothing to process my thoughts and my feelings. And I enjoy that very much. And today, I actually wasn't planning on filming or recording. I haven't even taken a shower yet. I just had a lot of things that I was actually thinking about this morning, and I thought, gosh, that would be a really good story to share. My preface to this episode is that I'm sharing a story that involves another person who is not in my life. And I respect this person. I'm telling this story from a place of honesty and compassion and understanding and respect. This story happened a long time ago. We're talking over 10 years ago. So I'm going to say things that are brutal truths, and I'm going to share some pain that I experienced at the hands of this person. But I am coming from a place of evolution and growth and forgiveness. I am not at all upset or bitter or hurt anymore. So please keep that in mind while I share this story. I am not at all trying to drag up history, pull some skeletons out of anybody's closet. I am in no way trying to hurt anyone. I'm sharing an experience that I had because I think it's valid, and I think there's some good lessons in it for other people. So I'm going to put it out there, and this is some of my dirty laundry I'm going to hang on the line for everyone to see. And I'm aware of that. So when I left I didn't even leave the house with the intention to go on a hike. Well, kind of I did. I didn't know. So what spurred this entire thought process was the joy that I felt in my freedom and independence this morning to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. I am living an extremely independent and free life for the first time. It took me 30 years to get to this place where I am not attached to anyone or anything. And that has not always been the case. I say that as just a truth. It's a truth. And on a whim, without having to clear it with anyone else, I got to go wherever the fuck I wanted. And I decided to go to this off-leash hiking trail park lake, which is actually where I went on 4th of July. I go here often, even though it's an hour away. I love this park so much. I love the area. I love how huge this recreation area is, and you can spend an hour there or you can spend the whole day there, and you'll never run out of things to do. So I thought, you know what? I want to do that. Let's go. And I just was basking in the fact that I don't have to ask anyone or tell anyone or align my agenda with anyone. I don't have to consider anyone else's needs except for my dog. I can just decide while I'm driving in the car where I want to go and then just go there. And I did. And it feels amazing. I'm not going to lie. It feels incredible to have that type of freedom. I have not always had that freedom, and I probably will not always have it forever. So I acknowledge that. I'm just soaking it in while I have it. And I've had this type of life and freedom for a couple years. This is where the wheels start turning. I can hear the gears in my head cranking because this thought in the car as I was driving for an hour, listening to music. I roll all my windows down. I like to feel like I'm not in the car when I'm in the car. So I like the wind rushing around me. My music's really loud. And, Odin's my ride or die road dog in the back with me. And I was thinking about how grateful I am that I live in this beautiful place. I live this beautiful life. I can do whatever I want pretty much any time. Of course, I have responsibilities as an adult living a regular ass life. I have things I have to do as a responsible person. But for the most part, I have a lot of freedom and autonomy. And it is incredible. Nothing compares. So I was thinking about that. And then I was like, how new is this feeling for me? How long have I felt like this? Have I always felt like I had this freedom and this, just like do whatever I want? And I think it takes a level of confidence and bravery in addition to freedom and independence. Like, I'm sure there's people out there who don't have a partner or kids that they're responsible for, and yet they don't feel the courage to go do things when they want to. And I'm grateful that I have the courage. And for the most part, I always have. I don't let my flying solo get in the way of the things I want to do. Like, I get to live one life. So get the fuck out of the way. I'm living. I have been a pretty bold and courageous person most of my life, which is strange because I was also very insecure and shy. So, humans are complex creatures. So I think that makes sense in the complexity of life that I was insecure and shy and bold and courageous all at the same time. I think it's possible to be all those things at the same time. So, I was. I've always had what I consider to be an extremely strong internal compass. I have a compass within me, in my soul, in my core, and it tells me what to do and where to go. It guides me. It's a powerful force that draws me to things. It's not like a voice that says you should do this. It's a draw. It's an inspiration. It's a flow of it's a pull towards things. So I have always had that. I've always had this very strong internal pull towards things. So I have an overpowering pull towards being an independent, free person. I thrive in that type of environment. I am my best when you leave me to my own devices. I don't really know what it's like to be different. So I'm laughing partly because I'm like, is everybody like this? I don't know. I don't know how it feels to be anybody but me. So I'm like, does everyone have this pull? Maybe I sound silly because I'm saying something obvious, but I truly don't know. And I have learned over the years to honor that compass and trust my internal compass. You could call it intuition. You could call it, I hate the word manifesting. I'm really sorry if you like that word, but I'm not going to say that word. Yeah, you could call it intuition or like a guiding light or whatever you want to call it. I call it a compass because it kind of like centers me and leads me and tells me, it kind of points me in a direction. And then I start to go that direction. I just follow the pull or follow the push. And there is a difference between a pull and a push. A pull is something that I go towards. I take a step and I move towards that. A push is something, whether I'm ready to take a step or not, I'm going. It's pushing me in that direction, whether I want it or not. So I've experienced both sides, a push and a pull, from the internal compass, that is my soul, that is my purpose, or whatever it is, my intuition. So I feel this on a daily basis, pretty much. A lot of what I do is me following this intuition that I have in what is meant for me. So I believe that what I'm supposed to have, I will have, and I will have it when I'm supposed to have it. That's for sure not how I've always been. I have not always been that way. I have been, as I covered in episode 1, a control freak with very high anxiety. This is one of the tools I've learned, is to honor my intuition and respect the fact that I will have what is meant to be mine when I'm supposed to have it. And that alleviates the jealousy and the fear that I won't get what I need or what I deserve, or like, when is it my turn? Or I don't have feelings like that anymore, because I've learned to believe and trust that what I'm supposed to have, I will have, and I'll have it when I'm supposed to have it. And if there's something I really want that I don't have right now, it's because I'm not supposed to have it. And one of the things that I want right now but do not have is a romantic partner. And I'm okay with it right now, with my singlehood, my singleness, kiss dating goodbye. So currently I'm 33 and I'm completely unattached. I'm not even actively dating right now. I am not pursuing anything. I'm just living my fucking life. It feels great. I have been a serial dater. Looking back, I can see my obsession with boys and relationships starting very, very young. I think it was probably like around the age of 13 or 14, maybe 13. I wanted attention and validation from boys. And because I was in a very conservative, restrictive environment, for most of my childhood and teenage years, I didn't act out in ways that perhaps I might have if I were in a different environment. So I wasn't having any physical relationships with boys. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who I was or if I was likable. I didn't even like myself or know myself at all. So recipe for disaster. So when I was like 13 or 14, I would be very flirty and like, I was weird. I have some of my memories are fuzzy. Like I remember feeling confused how to get attention in a healthy way, how to like know how to dress or behave around boys, or like how do you start the process of becoming interested in someone and having them be interested in you. I was fucking clueless, as most of us are at that age. And I think it was problematic in the sense that it was consuming me, that I wasn't focused on learning about me and learning about being in a relationship with myself. I was focused solely on learning about these guys that I had a crush on and how can I impress them and what can I do and say to get them to like me. And that was my focus for a long time. And I think a lot of it was subconscious. I don't think I was mature enough to consciously be like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be interesting to men. Like, I wasn't consciously thinking that. It was a subconscious need for attention and validation, which is a basic human need. So I can see it now. 20 years ago, I could not see it. I was kind of awkward and goofy, and I would do weird things and say weird things to get attention. Not like crazy class clown type, but I can just think back on those like cringy moments when you're hanging out with your friends at the burger joint and you're just like, oh my God, no, what did I say? So it's just those little cringe moments that I can think back on trying to get guys to like me. And I was kind of a tomboy. I've always been kind of a tomboy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can definitely put on a dress and heels, but it's not my preferred look. My preferred self is comfortable and functional, and whatever that looks like, I don't fucking care. So I was like that. I wanted to be comfortable and functional, but I also wanted to be like kind of cool and kind of like one of the guys. And I had 5 brothers, so I was like comfortable with guys anyways. And I didn't have 5 brothers. I mean, I do have them still. I currently still have 5 brothers. And I'm currently still somewhat of a tomboy. I just prefer to be comfortable, and I don't fucking care what you think about my appearance. It doesn't matter to me. So well, now it doesn't matter to me, but it definitely did back then. So I remember like very early on flirting with guys, having these like bullshit teenage relationships where you're like, do you want to be my boy? You know, this was pre-cell phones, okay? I didn't have cell phones. We didn't have phones. There was no social media. Can you fucking imagine? This was before MySpace. This was before Facebook was even a thought. There was nothing. Instagram, TikTok, none of this had even been thought of. It was a landline phone. Hello. It was a landline phone that was plugged into your house in the wall, and a computer that was on dial-up internet. So you had to take turns having the phone plugged in or have the internet plugged in. And I didn't have a way to like stay in touch with these boys. I didn't go to school. I was homeschooled, and I met people through church, and I met people in the neighborhood. And then I would try to stay in touch talking on the house phone, like at night when everyone in my house was asleep. So I was constantly like on the internet or on the phone talking to boys. I wanted attention and friends. Oh God, it's making me physically cringe to think back on it. I'm not going to explain what all of these social media sites are. I don't have time for that, but this is just to give you an idea of how long I've been on social media. Zanga, LiveJournal, Tumblr, AOL Instant Messenger, of course. I did not call it AIM. I called it AIM. So I was on AIM for a long time, going into chat rooms and chatting up strangers and talking to people. And I was smart enough to not send pictures or give personal information. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew where I lived. I was pretty good about being private because I was scared. Again, I was taking calculated risks. I'm really good at calculated risks. When MySpace launched, I remember my friend and I sitting at, it was one of my friends on LiveJournal who was in like web development, I think, or I don't know what she was doing. She was the one who alerted me to this new website. You got to get on here. It's going to be huge. Everyone's going to be on this eventually. Like, you can be one of the first. It's called MySpace.com, and you can post like pictures of yourself and like whatever you want. You can express yourself on this page that's like yours, but it's social. It's kind of like a website that represents you, but it's a social website where you can connect with other people and share your profiles. I was like, what? It's not like, because I was journaling online. I was literally keeping a live journal, which is an online, it's like the OG blogging. You would write your journal online, and I did that. I was journaling my thoughts publicly on the internet. So I was doing that at the age of like 13. Ooh, cringe. Here I am 20 years later doing the same thing. I was on MySpace for a while, a long time, until it became obsolete. My profile is still out there. Honestly, I don't even know how to delete it. I just stopped logging on. You guys remember checking your MySpace every day? It wasn't even an app. Like, there was no apps. No smartphones. You had to go to your computer, myspace.com, and log in. And there was no such thing as like a smartphone or an app that you just got on MySpace. So I was on MySpace for a long time, and I would peruse. You could search your zip code and see all the people that were online in your general area, and you could chat and like get to know people in your neighborhood. 13, 14, 15-year-old me, I think I was 15 by this point. 15-year-old me is on MySpace in the middle of the night because, again, we had dial-up internet, so I couldn't be on the internet all day because that meant you had to unplug your house phone to plug the internet in. I hope the younger people listening, their minds are like blown. You had to unplug the phone from the wall to plug the internet in. So I couldn't use the internet during the day when we needed the phone to work because, again, we didn't have cell phones. If anybody calls you, you got to have your house phone plugged in. So I would go on the internet at night when no one was going to call, and I would unplug the house phone at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night and plug in the internet and go on the internet for hours. stay up all night until the sun came up and I heard my mom waking up. Then I would go to bed. I did this all the time for years as a teenager. I would go on the internet late at night and peruse MySpace for people in my area to talk to and be friends with and get attention from, as teenagers do. And I remember scrolling through, I think I searched like 5 or 10 miles within my zip code, because I really was trying to meet people in real life. Like I wanted actual real life friends. So I was scrolling through these profiles of everyone in my area that was online and available to talk. And I saw this guy's profile picture. And I remember the picture. He was holding a bowl of cereal and he was eating a spoon of cereal. And he had this beautiful smile on his beautiful face. He was so hot. 15-year-old me was like, oh my God. I think he was 18. Yeah, he was 18 and I was 15. And I messaged him, bold little Holly, sent him a message and I said, you're really cute or you're hot or something like that. That was all I said was, well, you're cute. And he messaged back and said like, haha, I wish I had taken screenshots of this. This would be so funny if I had, but I don't have any record of this conversation. I just remember it very clearly because this story is a years long story. So I remember the first exchange was like me saying, oh, you're so hot. And he said, haha, thanks. Why do you say that? Or something weird that teenagers say, where they want you to like explain in detail why they're so hot. Now we want the opposite. When you get older, you're like, don't fucking tell me. Do not comment on my body. So we had this exchange about why I thought he was so cute. And then I don't even know, we exchanged AIM usernames and we chatted on MySpace a lot. We looked through each other's pictures. We shared like some of our interests and we had a lot in common and we lived very close to each other. I, of course, did not drive yet, and he did. He had just graduated high school and was going into junior college, and he had a job and a car, and I'm trying to remember back. I was homeschooled and I was, years away from having a driver's license, and I was living a very different lifestyle. He lived in a nice gated community and went to a really nice high school. And I lived in, my giant family in a small house in a okay area, but I didn't go to school and I didn't have a car. So we kind of just talked online a lot for months and months and months. We would talk on MySpace. We would talk on AIM. He didn't have a cell phone and I didn't have a cell phone. So we didn't really talk on the phone. And then I remember one time, it had been a few months, and he said, I'm going to go to the In-N-Out burger that is super close to both of our houses. It's like a 5 or 10 minute drive for him, and I could see In-N-Out from my living room. It was very close to my house where I grew up in California. And he said, I'm going to go to In-N-Out. Do you want to meet me there and we'll get burgers? And I was like, oh my God, freaking out inside. This super cute 18-year-old guy wants to like meet me for burgers. It was midnight, you guys. It was after midnight. So he was like, I'm going to go before they close if you want to meet me there. It was close enough for me to walk, except it was midnight. He knew that I lived in the area and that I was close to In-N-Out, but he didn't know how close I was, that I could literally see his truck pull in when he got there. So I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a car. I'm only 15. Like I can't walk there at midnight. So I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. If I can make it, I'll meet you there. And I was super nervous. So he left and logged off of Instant Messenger and went to In-N-Out, and I watched out the window and I saw his truck pull in because he had told me what kind of car he drives and like in previous conversations. So I knew what he was driving and I saw him pull in, and then I was like, God, I wish I could be there. And I remember my mom getting home from work. She was working a job that they closed at like midnight. So she was getting home around the time that I was sitting on the couch looking out the window at him pulling an In-N-Out. I ran out to the car when my mom was still in her car and I said, Mom, I'm really hungry. Can you take me to In-N-Out and I'll go get a burger really quick? And this was my sneaky way to like get to In-N-Out quickly without having to explain myself and not get yelled at by my mom for meeting a stranger from MySpace, because I had never met him yet or talked to him on the phone. So she's like, yeah, get in. I get in the van and we drive over. It's like literally 30 seconds to get there. I'm shaking like a leaf, and I was kind of shy, but also like super excited to meet this hot guy. He was like 6 foot something, green eyes, beautiful, such a good looking guy. And he still is. I went into In-N-Out and I waited in line like I didn't know he was there. I acted all innocent like I didn't. Oh, he can notice me first. Like I don't know. And I ordered my usual In-N-Out. I've been getting the same order at In-N-Out for like fucking 20 years. So I get my usual and I turn around after I order and I see him sitting in the booth. Well, I had already known he was there, but I was pretending I didn't see him. So I turn around and I look at him and we make eye contact and we wave at each other. And I walked over and we hugged and I sat down and we clicked for sure. And he was so sweet and so interested in me and so attractive, and I was so interested in him, and we chatted for a few minutes, and then my order was ready and I said, my mom is outside in the car. She doesn't know I'm meeting you. I told her to bring me here for food. And he was like, oh my gosh, do you want me to come out and meet her? And I'm like, no, do not. Absolutely not. Nope. I got my food. I said bye, like, I'll see you online later. It was good to meet you. I'm glad that I got to see you, or whatever. These are very fuzzy memories. So then I get back in the car with my mom and she's like, who's that guy? And I said, I think I lied. And said that he was someone from summer camp or something. I used to go to a lot of Christian camps and like make friends. And so I think I lied and said, oh, I ran into a guy from camp. I do not think I told her at that moment what I was doing. And I went home and I ate my burger and I was so excited that I had met him. And then over, a couple days later, he said he was going to go to Denny's up by your house. There was like a couple of restaurants up the street and he was going to go to Denny's in the middle of the night. We both were staying up on the internet all night, like crazy fucking teenagers. And it was the end of the summer or something. And he said, I'm going to go to Denny's. Do you want to go with me? I can pick you up on the way. This is like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I said, oh, I do. I want to go. I'm going to sneak out the window. And I left a note on my pillow as a conscientious 15-year-old. I said, dear mom, I'm at Denny's with a guy that I met on MySpace. And if I'm not back by the time you are awake for your morning coffee, like, call 911. This is a genius teenager's note, because my mom would occasionally wake up and check on all her kids. She had 8 kids and she's walking room to room in the middle of the night, making sure we're all here, kissing us on the forehead. So sometimes my mom would do that. And I knew that if she woke up during the window of time that I was at Denny's with this young guy, she was not going to have any fucking clue where I was. And I was 15 years old. And I did not want like a goddamn search party being launched for me. That would have been mortifying. So in my head, I knew this. I was like, okay, if I don't tell her somehow where I'm going to be, she's going to call out. The troops are going to start looking for me all over town. So I left this note that was like, I met a guy on MySpace and we're meeting at Denny's, when in reality, he picked me up. So I snuck out the front window that led to the front yard, because our front door was so loud that you would hear me unlock the locks and open the door. It was a very loud front door. So I was like, I'm jumping out the fucking window. I don't want anyone hearing me. It was 2 in the morning or some shit. And I jumped out the window. He pulled up and he turned his headlights off and he kind of like cruised very quietly in front of the house. And I got in. I was so scared. And he was so sweet. Such a good-hearted person. He was very good to me and kind to me. And I was young and excited about this like prospective relationship. And we went to Denny's and we sat up there and we had hot chocolate. And this kind of became our thing. We ended up having a blossoming relationship, and we spent a lot of nights at that Denny's having hot chocolate. And we had the same waiter who worked the night shift. His name was George. He was an older, God, how old was he? He must have been in his 50s at the time, or 60s. He was kind of like a fatherly figure to us, and he learned about us kind of over time, because we would go there like once or twice a week for a long time and have hot chocolate and talk to George. And yeah, I got to know this young man whose name I'm not going to say just because I don't feel like that's important. And I don't need people Googling him later. So if you know, you know. A lot of people know about this relationship. And if you know, you know. If you don't know, then you missed it. So he met my mom. One of the nights we were at Denny's, I eventually told my mom what I was doing because it was starting to get too hard to dodge the truth. And as soon as I had cleared this young man in my mind, where I'm like, okay, he passes my filter and my tests, I'm ready for my parents to know about him. And God forbid I tell my fucking father that I met a strange man on the internet and have been hanging out with him in the middle of the night. I knew better than to tell that to my father, lest one of us get murdered. And I somehow told my mom, I don't really remember how. She was shocked and kind of horrified, but I said, don't worry, he's really great. He has a great family. He's super sweet. He's a good guy. You should come with me to Denny's one night. You can meet him, because that's where I told her, like, we've been hanging out at Denny's in the middle of the night. I don't know if I told her all the details, but that was our innocent little teenage relationship. We would just he would pick me up. We would go 2 minutes up the road to Denny's and sit and have hot chocolate. That was literally all we were doing. We weren't doing anything crazy. So I didn't mind telling my mom. And we were both good Christian teenagers who were trying to live right. And one night my mom went with me to Denny's and he was there with his friend, and we had made plans to meet there. So one of his friends was going to meet me and my mom was going to meet him. So we went up there. My mom loved him. She thought he was great right off the bat because he was a really good young man. And that was kind of how that relationship started. I remember my 16th birthday, I was talking to him, but I hadn't met him yet. So we must have been talking at the end of 2003, which is when he turned 19. I turned 16, and then a few months later, 5 or 6 months later, we started being boyfriend and girlfriend. We decided to be officially committed to each other. Now that I'm in my 30s, like, I don't give a fuck about titles like that. It honestly feels weird to be like, oh, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend. That kind of stuff is not as important to me now as it was then. Back then, it was very important to me to have titles and to be committed to each other. And I was very much in the mindset that dating is for finding a marriage partner. I didn't really think of dating men that I didn't want to be with in the long term. So I would always force these images of the relationship into, like, can I marry this person? Can I deal with this for the rest of my life? Even at like 16 years old, which is pretty intense. So after I had turned 16 and he was 19, you know, we started being boyfriend and girlfriend, and that was in 2004 in May. Yeah, we had a long relationship. We were together for 7.5 years. I'm pretty sure. Or 7.5 or 8 years. So I started dating him when I was 16, and it ended when I was 23, almost 24. Yeah, a lot happened in those years. A lot of good things, a lot of bad things, a lot of very intense feelings on both sides. And I'm looking back now, I'm trying to jog my memory. That's kind of why I'm spacing out a little bit. I'm like, I haven't tapped into this story until this morning when I was just kind of thinking about my current singleness in comparison to me as a teenager and in those younger relationships. Yeah, him and I were immediately enmeshed. We had a very intense connection that was mostly unhealthy codependence on each other. I can say that now. In the moment, I thought we were doing great. I thought we had it all figured out. I thought we had the best relationship that you could ask for. I thought everybody wanted this type of relationship, and I got it. Back then, I can say from my perspective, it felt like he was very popular and well liked. He was, you know, prom king in his high school and had a lot of friends, and he was extremely good looking and tall and tan and green eyes and had a nice family, came from a nice neighborhood, had a good job, had a car, literally checked all my boxes. And I was in love. I was infatuated. I felt like I won the lottery. I felt like I couldn't believe that I found what I wanted at 16 years old. And I just was head first, all in from the very beginning. And I also, in retrospect, can see that I was internally spiraling. I needed stability and a sense of security and a sense of self-esteem and a sense of identity. Those things were on me to solve by myself, and instead I brought those absences, those holes, those wounds, those unlearned lessons, I brought those with me into this relationship as a very young 16-year-old. All those things combined are a recipe for an extremely codependent, overly attached relationship. And that's precisely what we got. So we were under the impression that our relationship was very healthy from the start, but looking back, it was not. We were both looking for things that we didn't know we were looking for, and we kind of found it in each other instead of finding it in ourselves. And that is a very clean way of summarizing those relationship dynamics. We were very involved with each other's families. I still know his family and still talk to them occasionally, even after all these years. And he was very close with my family and would come over even when I wasn't there. If I was gone at school or like doing something, he would spend time with my family. He loved my family. We did everything together. We went to church together. We served and volunteered in the church in the same ways together. We played music together. We did everything together. There was some things that we didn't do together. I want to say that I gave him the freedom and independence that I now crave and love. I want to say that I afforded that to him in that relationship, but it was so long ago and I was so young and immature that I highly doubt I did. I can reflect back on who I was at that age, and I know that I was confused, insecure, and kind of just in a spiral, but I didn't know it. And so he got caught in my web and I got caught in his web. He had other things going on in his life too that he wasn't, consciously aware of how to deal with it or what was going on with him. We were just young. And because we got so involved in each other's lives on every level, it was almost impossible to untangle ourselves. We were just truly enmeshed. And I grew to a place in this relationship where I did not ever consider my life without him. Not a single one of my goals or dreams or plans for my future, nothing excluded him. Everything that I had planned for myself and my life included this man. And not once did I entertain the idea that we wouldn't be together. That never occurred to me. I thought that I found it. I thought that this was it. I was in love with this person and he was in love with me and this was it forever. And I was excited about that. And never did I ever imagine myself as an autonomous person outside of the relationship. Never did I consider a plan B for if this relationship didn't work out. Nothing. I had no concept of life without him. Once I was in love with him and we had been together for a year or two, that was it for me. I was sold, committed. We might as well have been married. To me, we were. And I was way too young for that. But that was kind of the mindset that I had unknowingly. I can say all that now that I have had therapy in retrospect, but at the time, I just thought this was the love that everyone told me to look for. And I was like, all right, I would be an idiot to let it go. So I'm going to cling on and choke it to death. And that's kind of what I did. I'm sure that almost immediately my controlling and bossy characteristics that were driven by fear and insecurity were present. I was very good at telling him what I wanted and what I didn't want, and telling him exactly when I wanted it and exactly when I didn't. So I was a bit bold for a teenager. I was a mixture of bossy, I want it this way, I want it right now, I want this, I want that, but also like, I don't know who I am and I don't know what I want, and help me, can you unscrew this jar? There was just some very, conflicting versions of me that I'm sure he was getting. God, I'm so sorry. But also the same in return, I can acknowledge that we were both teenagers figuring our shit out, and we should have been doing it solo, and instead we were doing it very heavily enmeshed with each other. We did not have a healthy, balanced interdependence. We didn't know how to do that. We were just like completely enmeshed, and we didn't know how to get ourselves apart. We didn't have the tools, and we didn't have the adult guidance to help us either. We did tap into some leadership, some pastors at the church that we were a part of when we were that young. We were still teenagers, and we thought that what the right thing to do was to get accountability partners, which is a very common term in the religious world for relationships for young people, or people of all ages, I'm sure, is another couple that can hold you accountable and make sure that you are it's just fucking cringy thinking back on it. We basically signed our relationship decisions and our autonomy over to a married couple that was our youth pastors, and we told them that we wanted to do the right thing, to have the right healthy relationship, and to do what God wanted us to do, and we wanted them to help us hold us accountable. I remember there being like a really tense dinner at their house when they were like, you need to relinquish control of this relationship over to us, and if we tell you to break up, you need to trust that that's what God wants for you, and you need to break up. And if you can't trust us that much, then we don't want to be your accountability partners. My internal compass kicked in when I was sitting at their table, and I was like, that doesn't feel right. My intuition is telling me that that's not right. I felt that, but I didn't know how to say that. And I just remember being like, I think we need to think about that. I don't feel like that's for me. I don't like other people having control over my life and my decisions, because guess who has to suffer the consequences of my decisions? Me, not you. Don't tell me what to do unless you're going to pay the fucking price for it. So that was the instinct that I had, but I didn't know how to say it. At that point, I was probably 17 or 18. I don't even know. It all blends together at some point. So we had some very weird attempts at trying to have a healthy relationship, but we didn't know how to do that. We had different accountability partners at different places in our relationship. As we got older, we had different couples kind of helping us. We went through this book study. We went to therapy. We were trying our best to figure out how to have a healthy relationship and set ourselves up for marriage, because that was kind of what we both wanted. At least that's what I thought. I thought that that's where we were headed. And I was full steam ahead, 100 miles an hour. Get me in that fucking wedding dress. Let's go. I was ready. And on our 5th dating anniversary, he took me to the Gas Lamp District in San Diego, California. He had made a reservation at a restaurant where you get this it was a very nice restaurant, especially for our young age. I was like, whoa, bougie. I grew up not bougie. So this was kind of a bougie place where you go on this it was kind of like a bed in the restaurant. It was the chef's table or something. So you had this private lounge bed / couch where you could see the kitchen, and the chef would come to you. You're the only one. Everyone else is sitting at tables like a normal restaurant, and you're kind of looking from the corner like royalty. And so he reserved this for us. He knew somebody, and the chef comes over, and it's all custom meals that you get. And so it's like, what do you like? What do you don't, what do you not eat? Are you allergic to anything? And then they customize a menu for you and come up with the menu for your party, which at this was just the two of us celebrating our 5th anniversary. We also had booked a hotel room at this really nice hotel that I think was adjoined with the restaurant or next door to it, or I'm not sure if they were connected or not. This was a long time ago. Yeah, this was in May of 2009. So we're at this restaurant in San Diego. We're ordering from the chef. I'm so excited. And we're sitting in this little like lounge area in private, just the two of us, low lighting. And he's very nervous. And he said, I had a plan to propose to you right now, but I don't have the ring. I remember him saying, your ring is not here because it's not ready yet. And I really want to propose to you, but I wanted to do it with your ring that we designed. We must have designed it before. So I knew an engagement was coming because I was like, this is the ring that I want, but I want it custom made. And I remember we had lots of ring conversations. I wanted to be engaged. I felt embarrassed that we had been dating very publicly for 5 years and I wanted to be married more than anything. I was like, what's taking so fucking long? We should have been married by now. I remember meeting with a jeweler and designing the ring, but I guess we did it before that, which is cringy. Why am I making him design a wedding ring for me when we're not even fucking engaged? That's whack, dude. And we were so young. Anyways, we are at this restaurant in San Diego. We're sitting in the little cubby corner. The chef is making our custom meal, and this young man whose name I'm trying so hard not to say is telling me how he loves me and how all the things that he loves about me and that he wants to spend his life with me. And he proposes. I don't even know. We used like a fake ring, or he tied something around my finger, and we're crying and kissing, and we're very young. He was 24 and I was 21, and we'd been together for 5 years. We just kind of shared that moment. We shared a delicious meal. We shared a very romantic evening in the hotel room. There was roses and strawberries covered in chocolate and champagne. And there was a custom like greeting and congratulations from the hotel. And it was very romantic and like everything that you would see on a YouTube video of a proposal. But we didn't have social media. Like we weren't filming it for fucking follows and likes. So it was an organically lovely and romantic night. And I remember he told me that his original plan was to have my whole family and his whole family there so that we could celebrate with them, but it didn't work out because we were so far away from home. We were like an hour or something. So he said, your family's waiting. They knew I was going to propose tonight if you want to call them. So I remember calling my family. He had already told them that it was going to happen, and they were all so excited and happy for me. And I was just on cloud nine. And this is what I had been waiting for 2-3 years, and now I finally get to be engaged and marry this man that I love so much. And all these plans that I had dreamed up for my life, they now get started. I get to have the house with him and the kids with him, and we're gonna have the life where our families get together for Christmas, and it's gonna be like what you see in the movies. Like I fucking believe that through and through to my core. Nothing else had ever occurred to me. I want to emphasize that because this is setting up the devastation of the loss of the relationship. And so much of the devastation is tied to the fact that I didn't have any other plan for my life outside of this. So yeah, I was elated that everything I had dreamed of and hoped for was coming true, and I was going to be able to execute it starting now. Within days, I had the wedding dress. We had the date lined up. We wanted a short engagement because we had been dating for so long. I say we, but it was probably just me. It wasn't like I was dragging him along by the hair. He was absolutely involved and partaking in the excitement and in the planning. And he was like my dream man for sure. He was talking to my family, and he was helping me pick out colors and invitations and the guest list. And like, we were equally involved in the planning. And we had never lived together. We were Christians who didn't believe in living together before marriage. Although I had been asking for a few years to live together because I was having a hard time with my housing. I had already dropped out of school and was renting different rooms and different apartments with different strangers. And I said, can we just live together? Like, we've been together all these years. Like, we're already fucking. So who cares? He did not want to live with me. And it was under the guise of we're Christians and that's not right to cohabitate. I think that there was more going on subconsciously for him that he couldn't admit to himself or to me. We could have lived together. I think we could have if there weren't other things going on underneath. But he constantly refused to live together, even though I was like, please, can you get me out of these apartment situations? I would rather live with you. And I was sleeping over at his apartment all the time anyways. And we had some conflict about that. And I remember very quickly after the engagement, we were apartment shopping. We were planning the wedding. We had it all, like I had already dreamed it all up. So it was very quick and easy. I was like, boom, got a dress. Boom, got a wedding planner book. Boom, I know where we're going to have it. I know who's invited. Like I'm already ready. I got the playlist already on my computer. I've been waiting for this day. Let's go. So we got engaged May 2009. And within a couple months, his behavior was changing in little ways. Well, they felt little at the moment. So I was so laser focused on getting married and dreaming of my future with him that I probably missed some more obvious signs. I was working one day and I wasn't feeling good and I can't remember why I asked him to come get me. Because we both lived in different places, different apartments, but we lived very close to each other in the same Newport Beach area. So I was working in Newport Beach and my apartment was in Newport Beach, but I don't know why I asked him to pick me up that day. And I said, can you come get me? I don't feel good or whatever it was. He came and picked me up and I got in the car and he was in his board shorts in a tank top and he was all sandy from the beach. And I said, what were you at the beach? I thought you had to work today. And he was like, no, I was at the beach. And I said, that's like, it just was out of character for him to take a day off and go to the beach. And he didn't ever tell me that. I was kind of like, it didn't occur to you to tell me. I wouldn't have cared. I knew like my intuition was like, something is wrong. He would never hide from you a beach day. The fact that he took the day off to go to the beach and never mentioned it to me until I asked about why he was covered in sand and wearing wet board shorts. I was just like, okay, I mean, you can do what you want, but it just kind of surprises me that you didn't tell me that that was your plan. And he got very defensive and was like, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to tell you everything. And I was like, whoa. We did not have a high conflict relationship. For the most part, we got along very well and we had a lot of fun together. And there was a lot of laughing and a lot of music and a lot of deep conversation. We did have a lot of good things about our relationship, but he got very defensive in that moment and very mean and was like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to tell you if I'm going to the beach. Like, I just wanted to go without having to tell you. What are you, my mom? And I was like, wow, no, I'm curious why you didn't tell me. Like, whatever, bro. And then, I get defensive because I'm young and immature. And I just remember that day. And we never talked about it any further. That was it. I never asked any more questions. And then there was another time that back in the LG flip phone days, so phones like didn't work without a SIM card and there were no smartphones really. His phone broke. I had just upgraded to a BlackBerry or some shit and I had an LG flip phone still. And he said, can I borrow your LG flip phone until I get a replacement phone? And I said, sure. And he just put his SIM card in. It was just a blank phone. There was nothing there. So he used my LG flip phone for like a couple weeks and then he upgraded his phone and he was like, oh, I don't need this anymore. And I was going to give it to one of my friends or my siblings or something. So I said, can I have the LG flip phone back? And he gave it back to me and his SIM card was in his new phone, but he hadn't cleared the messages on my LG flip phone. The messages were still in the inbox. So I'm looking at these messages. I wasn't even snooping. This was my phone that he borrowed and gave back to me. And there were messages with a girl that we knew mutually. This girl had been a part of my life for a while. We went to church together. We were in groups together. She had a relationship with my older brother for a while. I knew this young woman. And she had text messages to my fiance in my phone. And I just remember being like, what the fuck? And they were definitely not friend text messages. They were very flirty and like baby talk. And I must have been in denial. I remember being like, my heart dropped into my stomach and I felt sick seeing these messages between them, like baby talking to each other. We're engaged. We are engaged to be married. We've been together for 5 fucking years, bro. And I couldn't deal with the possibility that he was talking to other people. And so I remember confronting him and saying, what the fuck is this? Why are you texting her? And why are you texting this to her? I had 2 questions, sir. Why her? And why this? And he gaslit me and convinced me that I was reading into things and that this was nothing. And, you know, we're all friends. We all know each other. This isn't a secret. They're just, you know, and then it came out that the beach day he had was with her. And they weren't calling each other pet names in the text messages, but I remember kind of just like silly, flirty, like baby talk. And he gaslit the bejesus out of me until I let it go. And I never fully let it go. It was always in the back of my mind. And there was more like little things like that. And it was this one girl. And he had a job as a lighting guy at a nightclub in the area. And sometimes I would go hang out. I became friends with some of the people he worked with, and I would get free food and free drinks. So what the fuck? I would go to this nightclub to just sit in the back with him while he did the lights behind the DJ and like have free drinks and free food. I wasn't like clubbing. Sometimes I would dance or like have my friends come, but I was visiting him at work a lot. And I remember I was at work with him one time. The club wasn't even open. Like nobody was even there. He was getting set up and testing the lights, and we were sitting in the back, and then people started to show up. It was like 9:00 at night, which is early in the club world. And he and I were in the back, and I'm sipping on my drink, and the bouncer comes up, and this poor bouncer was probably like, you fucking man whore. Because everybody that worked with him knew who I was. Like I would get like, you know, they would open the doors and let me skip the line. Like they all knew who I was. I was the girlfriend of the lighting guy. And like, I felt kind of like a air of celebrity. So I'm already in there. I've been let in. And then the bouncer comes up and says, somebody's here for you. And he said, who's here for me? And then it got awkward. Like there was an awkward tension where I was just like, your boss maybe? I don't know. And he said the girl's name. And I said, she's here visiting you at work, asking for you? I was just like, what? Are you fucking dense, bro? And he was like, I didn't invite her here. I don't know why she's here. I don't know why she's asking for me. Like got all defensive and gaslighty again. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? And the bouncer was like, anyways, just want to let you know. And he's like out of here as he leaves this like awkward, tense moment. And my fiance leaves and goes to the front door to see who's here to see him. The club I don't think they were letting people in yet. And he comes back, just him. And I'm like, what's going on? Why is she here for you? And he said, she's not here for me. She's here with her friends and she knows that I work here. So she just wanted to say hi. And I was like, it makes me really uncomfortable. That makes me really uncomfortable. Something is not right. And I'm sure he was coming from a place of fear and insecurity and didn't want to hurt me and didn't want to face his own behavior. So he was lying and tricking me and gaslighting me. And it worked. It worked. I let it work because I couldn't deal with the truth either, and neither could he. So we just kind of gaslit ourselves and each other, and we played a game for a while. And then I remember, so I just had, I had these doubts about him and about us and about her. And I remember at one point I called her out. I called them both out. I emailed both of them. I put it in writing and I said, you need to stop talking to each other. It's making me really uncomfortable. You're my friend. You're my fiance. Like, Why is this so difficult for you guys to respect me when I'm telling you that your friendship is making me uncomfortable? I feel like there's something going on that I don't know about. I said this to both of them, and they were just like, sorry we made you uncomfortable, like nothing's going on. So then I'm getting gaslit from both sides, and they lied to me and said, you know, everything was kosher and they don't know what I'm talking about, and nothing's happening, Holly. Don't be silly. Jesus Christ. This story doesn't make me cry to tell it, but the trauma is still being triggered. So right now I'm feeling triggered about being gaslit and about having my reality denied to my face by people that I trust. So it's not the story itself, it's the concepts within it that are triggering me and making me feel like sweaty right now. Because we don't ever fully, like, you don't fully forget these type of traumas. They can lie dormant for a while, or they can like permanently shape us. I was permanently shaped by this situation, and I feel triggers going off right now about being gaslit, and by having people that I love and trust look me in the face and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm confused. No wonder I always felt confused and anxious, because no one was validating my fucking reality. And I'm like, I know something is going on. I know there's a reason I feel uncomfortable. I know my intuition is telling me something. And they're like, no, it's not. Don't be silly. Nothing's, you know, it's fuckery all over again with the fuckery. So nothing ever came of that. They gaslit me and lied to me and played normal with me. We were counting down to the wedding at the same time that all this is going on. This is now, you know, we got engaged in May. We set the wedding for October. June has gone by. July has gone by. August has gone by. September comes, and it's his 25th birthday. And I really want to make his birthday special. I want to celebrate him and make him feel loved. So I coordinate a birthday party at his parents' home, and I invite my whole family and his whole family and all of our friends, and there's like a pretty good group of people, and we have food and we play games, and the girl is there. I don't know if I invited her. I feel like I did not. If I did invite her, it was out of pity and obligation, but I feel like I did not invite her because I didn't want her to be there, obviously. All those other things were kind of happening with like her showing up at his work and then me calling them out on their weird friendship, and I was like, I don't really want her. I think she came with another group of people that I had invited, or I did pity invite her because everyone else that we knew was coming. I cannot remember. But I was definitely unhappy with her at the time. I remember my fiance kind of acting a little bit weird at that birthday party. He got drunk, which we weren't big drinkers, and I felt like that was out of character for him to get drunk at his parents' house in front of both of our families. He was drinking whiskey, and that was in the back of my mind. I was like, what is he drinking for? And why is he drinking so much? We were not substance people. We didn't drink or smoke or anything. So it was definitely out of character for him to be drinking like that. And it was noticeable to me that he was drinking and drinking a lot. So he got drunk that night, and I was like, maybe he's just trying to have a good time for his birthday. Like, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. And I didn't even say anything to him, but I did notice it. There was another night in September where I had played a house show at my parents' house at my home, and she was there and he was there, and there was like awkward tension. I just felt this presence anytime they were in the same place together. There was something. I couldn't tell you what it was, but there was something there, and I fucking knew it. And every time I would try to talk to him about it, I was getting gaslit and lied to and told that I'm thinking of things that aren't really real and blah, 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 blah. You don't know what you're talking about, and that's not how it is, and you don't know. And it was bad. It was bad. And then I think it was literally 3 or 4 days after his birthday party, I was sitting in my apartment. I had just gotten up. It was very early in the morning, 6:30 or 7, and I was getting up to get ready for work and start my day. And I logged on to social media I was checking that like when I was having my coffee or whatever the fuck. And I had a message from an old friend of mine and my brother's. And he kind of ran in the circle of friends that we went to church with. And I hadn't talked to him in 2 or 3 years. We hadn't talked at all. And this guy sent me a message that said, "Hey, Holly, I really need to talk to you about something, and I need to talk to you about it ASAP. Please call me." And he gave me his phone number. I started to panic a little bit. I was like, what is he calling? You know, like, why him? Like, where is he? What is, you know, where has he been all these years? I don't even know what he's been up to. So I called my brother and I said, "Hey, this, you know, XYZ, I'm not going to say his name, XYZ messaged me and said he needs to talk to me. Like, do you know where he's been? Like, what's he up to? Is it okay for me to talk to him? Or is this like, is he going to murder me?" Like, I just didn't know where this was coming from. And I was kind of panicking a little bit. I think I was probably in survival mode and in denial. And my brother was like, "No, I haven't talked to him in a few years. I have no idea. Just message him back and ask what's up." And I was like, okay. I think I texted him and I said, "Hey, I just got your message." He had sent it at like midnight and I'm seeing it at like 7 a.m. because I don't check my social media when I'm asleep. So I texted him and said, "Hey, I got your message. I am a little unsure of what's going on or something." And he said, "I need to meet you and talk to you in person." And I was like, okay. I watched too much true crime and I was like, he's gonna throw me in the trunk and drive me to a second location and murder me and leave my body under like a foot of dirt, because that's what happens in every true crime story where a man that you haven't talked to in a few years asks to meet you. So I said, "Hey, why don't you meet me in the parking lot of my office? How much time do we need to talk? Like, is half an hour enough? I can meet you there an hour before work." Me thinking I'm gonna like have a normal day. And I said, "I have to do my makeup and I can meet you there in like 45 minutes to an hour. And he said, "Don't bother putting makeup on." And he said, "You need to meet me right now." And I just knew. Something in me clicked and I started to do the math of, this person has been hanging out with the girl. And I know that because we run in the same friend groups and my friends who we have mutually told me that they think the two of them might get together, this guy and this girl. And so we had been kind of casually talking about that. So I knew he had been hanging out with her. This was the only tie I could think of that he had to me in the last few years. He's been hanging out with the girl and the girl has been hanging out with my fiance. So I'm crunching the numbers in my head. How do I have a connection with this guy where he has something to tell me? And so I put the dots together and I thought he was just at her house a couple nights ago because we were with our other friends and they told us that he was at her house and they were like, "We think they're going to get together and it would be so great." So I just knew. I knew that there had to be something with the girl. And the only thing I could think of that could be happening with the girl is that she's fucking my fiance. And he said, "Meet me right now. Don't bother putting makeup on." So I drove to my office and I was still a little nervous. So I called my coworker. This was my coworker, Matthew. He has since passed away from cancer. I loved Matty more than anything in the world. He was such a good friend to me, such a great person to work with. And I called him really early in the morning because he was a surfer who would always go surfing in the morning. And I said, "Matt, I can't explain what's going on, but I need you to meet me in the parking lot. I'm meeting an old friend who said he has something to tell me and I feel really uneasy about it. And I just want someone else there because I'm not sure what's happening." And he said, "Say no more. I'm on my way." Then Matt went and sat in the parking lot a couple yards away so that this guy didn't know he was there. I was just like, something is happening and I'm going to protect myself. So I have Matt in the background watching carefully, paying attention. And I have this guy driving to meet me here and I'm driving here. Before I walked out the door to drive, I said, "You know what? I'm going to give my fiance an opportunity to tell me if he has something to tell me. I'm going to give him an opportunity to tattle on himself." So I did. I called him as I'm walking out the door, on my little LG flip phone or whatever. And I said, well, first of all, it was really early. He was still asleep. And I said, "I need you to sit up." You need to sit up in your bed and rub your eyes and wake up because I have an important question for you. And he was like, what? What's going on? What's happening? And I said, I got a message from someone that I have not seen or spoken to in years. And they are on their way to tell me something right now that they said I need to know right now, that it cannot wait. I said, is there anything you are aware of that I need to know? And he said, no, I don't know anything. What's going on? Who is it? What's happening? He's like panicking more than me. And I was completely calm, talking just like this. And I said, I don't know what's going on, but they're going to tell me. And if you don't have anything to tell me, then I'll find out from him. He said, I don't have anything to tell you. I don't know what's going on. Just call me afterwards, okay? And I said, I have to go. I'm going to meet him and I'll let you know what happens. And then I started to feel confused because now I'm getting gaslit again. So I'm driving to meet the guy. Matt's parked in the parking lot. This guy's driving to meet me. I'm literally pulling in. I'm in the parking lot just looking for a spot. And my fiance calls me. My phone's ringing. And I just knew it. This motherfucker couldn't confess until he thought about it for 10 minutes. So I pick up the phone and I slam on my brakes in the middle of the parking lot. And I said, what? And he said, I told you I don't have anything to tell you, but I do. And he's stuttering and panicked and freaking out. And I said, just tell me. Just tell me. Just rip the Band-Aid off. And he said, you know how you've been suspicious about me and the girl? It's true. There is something going on. And I said, you pathetic excuse for a man. I have to go. And I hung up on him because I already knew, bro. I don't need to hear anymore. I didn't even let him finish whatever the fuck he thought he was going to say. I didn't need it anymore. I was now at level 100 crisis meltdown trauma mode. I was at max capacity for what I could handle. And I'm in my 4Runner with my foot on the brake in the middle of the parking lot at my office. My coworker's over here. My friend from years ago is on his way to meet me and tell me this news. And I was spiraling is not even a big enough word for what I was doing. I was in the middle of a mental tornado. Everything stopped. I didn't care about anything. I immediately went into my handle this crisis. I called Maddie. I said, thank you for being here. I see you parked over in the corner. This is what happened. He's been cheating on me and someone was coming to tell me that. And he just confessed. And I said, I need you to cover for me at work. I'm not okay. I cannot work. And I said, you need to tell boss. And so he said, I got it. Don't worry. I'm so sorry. Keep me posted. I got your back. Maddie was like a fucking ride or die friend. So he took care of my work life. He went and talked to my boss and I said, please don't tell them the details, but tell them I'm having an emergency and I can't work. So he helped me deal with my work life. And then I pulled over and called the guy who was on his way to meet me, and I'm hysterical at this point. And I said, he told me. And he said, Holly, I'm so sorry. I found out last night and I had to tell you. And I said, can you just come here and meet me? So this guy still comes and meets me in the parking lot, and I am just sobbing into his arms. He's holding me and I'm like, what am I gonna do? When did you find out? Who told you? How long have you known? Who else knows? I start, the infidelity questions that you go into. I was 21 years old, launched into these questions. And I sobbed in his arms for 5 or 10 minutes. And he said, I had dinner with her last night and I have been trying to date her. She wouldn't commit to a relationship with me, and I finally got it out of her. Why? And she had told me she was seeing someone. He said he had to really pull it out of her, that she eventually confessed to seeing someone that they mutually knew who was engaged, but she wouldn't tell him who she was seeing. So he said, the only person I know that's engaged that also knows her is you and this guy. And he said, he connected the dots because she wouldn't tell the full truth, and she's gaslighting him and gaslighting me. And it was a fucking gaslight party. It's super ironic that we got engaged at the Gas Lamp District in San Diego. And then for all of the preceding or all the subsequent years would just be straight up gaslighting. So signs, anyone? I'll take that as a sign. So this guy is holding me and telling me this story and saying, because I was I was absolutely mortified. One of my first emotions was embarrassment that I was like, tell me I'm not the last to know. Tell me I'm not the last to know. If everybody knows but me, I'm fucking blowing this whole planet up. That was the feeling I had, was please tell me I'm not the last person to know. And he said, nobody knows. Nobody knows. They haven't told anyone. I'm the first person that knows. And I emailed you immediately because I didn't know how to get a hold of you, and I didn't have your number, and I didn't have your brother's number, and I knew I had to tell you as soon as he got home from dinner with her, he messaged me the night before. What a real one, dude. You're a real one. So I said, I gotta go. I told this guy that I was gonna go to my mentor's house and talk to my mentor, and that was true. I called my mentor and told them what happened, and I said, I need to come over right now. I just found out he's cheating on me with the girl, and we all knew her. So my mentor was expecting me to come over, and I said, I gotta make a stop. I gotta stop on my way out, and I'm gonna stop at his apartment. I don't think that this was the best idea. I was 21 years old. Every single thing in my life had just collapsed at one moment, and everything that I thought I knew, everything I believed, everything I had planned for myself. Did I mention that the wedding was 3 weeks away? We were 23 days away from the wedding. It was going to be in October, in mid-October. I know the date. I remember the date of our wedding. That did not happen. So this was 3 weeks and 2 days prior to that. This was on a Thursday, September 23rd, 2009. And his birthday was September 19th. So it was 4 days after his birthday party, and our wedding was planned for like 23 days later. Keep that in mind as I'm spiraling. I'm livid. I'm validated. My reality was real, and I couldn't control my anger. So I drove to his apartment on my way out of Newport to get to my mentor's house. So I just swung by. Just wanted to exchange a few words. I don't think they locked their front door, because I remember I plowed through the front door like a goddamn fucking gorilla, and I was seeing red. I should not have been there. I was through the roof, enraged. I don't think I have ever been that angry in my life. That was the angriest I've ever been to this day. I thought that I could kill someone. I was absolutely done with everything, and I wanted to kill his ass. I didn't. I went in screaming, barged in the door screaming. His roommate was on the futon sleeping and shot up and said, "What the hell's going on here?" I'm so sorry that I did that to you, that I scared the bejesus out of you at like fucking 8 o'clock in the morning. So I stormed past him. I didn't even answer his roommate. I just stormed on by, and I kicked his fucking bedroom door open. And I was like, fee, fi, fo, fum, motherfucker. I was here to stomp on some fucking faces. Rage doesn't even feel like a strong enough word. I was beyond rage. I was in the mental space that I imagine passion killings happen. Like, I was there. He was sitting on his bed with a picture of us clutched like pearls. And he was just sobbing uncontrollably, crying with this picture of us clutching it. And I said, "Oh, you love our relationship? How sweet." No, I started screaming. And I ripped all the pictures off the wall one at a time. You think this picture of us is cute? Bam, smashed it. You like this picture of us? Bam. Remember this memory? Bam, I smashed all the pictures he had of us hanging on the wall. And I was throwing things at him. I was just ransacking his room because it was either that or murder. So he's crying and panicking, and he had never seen me get this escalated. No one has ever seen me get this escalated. I was a level 1 million on the fury scale. We're talking too fast, too furious, like 8 million. And I said, "This is you. This is all you. You're a piece of shit. You're a liar. You're pathetic. You're disgusting. And you fucking ruined me. You have destroyed me, and I'll never forget it. And I blamed it all on him because it was all him. He made the choice to cheat on me. And at this point, I didn't even know the details, and I didn't need to. I just knew that he did the unthinkable in my book. I have never cheated on anybody. I would never do that to anyone. And I couldn't believe he did it to me. And I just went off on his ass and was screaming so loud. I didn't even know my voice could go that loud. And I walked out of his room after I said, "You're dead to me. You will never see me again." And his roommate, with his eyes like just gigantic, his roommate had heard the whole thing, just sitting out there like, Jesus fucking Christ. And he said, "Holly, what is going on?" And I said, "That motherfucker cheated on me 3 weeks before my wedding day." And I slammed the door and I left. I drove to my mentor's house and I sobbed on her couch, and I sobbed and I sobbed and I sobbed. And this mentor had been a support system for this relationship. Her and her husband had guided my fiance and I for years and had been in our relationship and in our lives on a very personal level. And so they were also hurt and furious and just so protective of me. And I truly feel like if you're listening to this, you played a huge role in helping me through that. I am trying very hard not to say names, but you know who you are. You know, if I cried on your couch the day that I find out I got cheated on, you know who you are. And the tenderness and the love and the understanding that I received from my mentors that day was, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't have that. So grateful for that. So before I made the pit stop at my fiance's house, I was like, I'm calling her. I have her phone number. We know each other. She was at my engagement party. She's planning a bachelorette party with our other girlfriends. She was supposed to, she was involved. She knew who I was. She knew my life. She knew me. She knew my relationship. She knew that I was with this man for all these years and we were getting married. It was a beyond fucked up situation. And I had her phone number because I knew who the fuck she was, and I called her 3 times and she didn't answer. And she worked as a preschool teacher or something. So I was like, she's probably teaching the kids. What a fucking sweet, altruistic person. So as I'm at my mentor's house crying on the couch, I'm like, I tried to get a hold of her. I need to talk to her. And I felt entitled to have a meltdown at her apartment also, like I did my fiance's apartment. I wasn't handling it super maturely, but I told my mentor, if you can come with me, I would like to confront her and find out what's been going on and why I thought I needed to do this within a couple of hours of finding out was probably not a good idea. But I finally got a hold of the girl through text messaging. She wouldn't call me and she wouldn't answer my calls, but she texted me and said, "Oh, hey, what's going on? I saw you called." And I said, I need to talk to you. I'm coming to your house right now. So get ready. She lived 10 minutes away. I knew where she lived. And my mentor drove me over there. I was shaking. This was all within hours of finding out. So I go to her house. We knock on the door. She opens the door and she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "I need to come in and talk to you." And I walked in. I didn't even wait for her to invite me in. I walked into her apartment and sat on her couch. I did not ransack her apartment or break her pictures. I sat on one couch with my mentor and she sat on another couch kind of across from us, diagonally. And she said, what's going on? Acting completely innocent, acting completely out of the loop. I'm sure she's coasted through her whole life acting like a fucking dumbass. And I said, "Oh, I need to know why you were sucking my fiance's dick and having a relationship with him behind my back. That's why I'm here." "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." "What do you mean?" I remember she kept doing this, like a fucking puppy, where she was bobbing her head back and forth, acting very confused, gaslighting the shit out of me. "I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean?" And I was like, we're past that point. We're past the faking and the the gaslighting is over. I turned the lights on. So The truth is out, and I need to know why you were hooking up with my man behind my back while simultaneously showing up at our engagement party and planning a bachelorette party for me. I just need some answers, please. And she had nothing to say for herself, was acting like she didn't know what I was talking about. So I spelled things out for her further, and she was like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what's happening. And I said, cut the shit. No, I don't remember exactly what I said. I was seeing red. This is all very, difficult to recall. And I'm sure my trauma brain has hidden some of the memories from me just so I can survive. I remember my mentor saying, this is where normal people apologize for what they've done. And she was like, well, I'm sorry. I'm not sure like what you want me to say. And I was like, forget this. You're a fucking idiot. You have issues. And I remember looking at her face and saying, I am not going to get revenge on you. I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to bother talking about you behind your back. I'm not going to even bother telling people what you did. And I said, you are pure wickedness, and God will pay you back for what you've done to me. I don't need to do anything because I believe that you will be paid back for what you've done to me, and you will suffer greater at the hands of life's consequences than if I were to slash your tires. And I said, if you come into a room that I am in, because we had run in the same circles, we were still going to the same church. I said, if you enter a room knowing that I'm there, I will fight you. I will drag you outside by the hair, and I will fight you. Do not come anywhere near me. And if I ever see you again, you're going to catch these hands. And I left. I walked out. There's a lot of other things that happened in the aftermath. I remember my fiance was panicking. So as I'm doing all this, I'm crying with my mentor, helping me through the emotions. I'm trying to figure out like what's the next step for that day, let alone like the next couple of days. Like I'm supposed to be getting married in, 20 something days. Like how am I supposed to, how do I get through it? Like how can you even make it through this? Can I just go to sleep and wake up a year from now? That was how I felt. Wake me up when September ends. Oh God. I just was trying to troubleshoot what my next step was for that day. I was in complete agony and emotional shutdown. I was living with some girlfriends in an apartment, and I remember going home. I did go back to my apartment. I told my roommates what happened, and I was, just crying, guttural, soul deep crying. I could not believe that this happened. And all the little flags that were along the way that I had denied, I was now crying for all of those and crying for what actually happened. And my heart was physically broken. I felt physical heartache and just sickness. I was absolutely sick. And my roommate was putting crackers in my mouth, trying to get me to eat something. You haven't eaten in 12 hours. You got to have some food for your, your body and your brain, and you need to drink some water. God bless my roommate. She's still one of my dearest friends. I love her so much. She nursed me through that day. She packed a suitcase for me and helped me get my parents to come pick me up. In retrospect, I think it would have been better for me to stay at my own apartment and kind of process for a little bit longer, but I was in crisis mode and I thought I needed to go home to my parents, even though I was an adult living in my own place an hour away. I don't really know why I felt like I needed to call my parents immediately and have them come get me, but I did. I was just like desperate. I was in absolute desperation to relieve the pain and anybody and anything I could think of. I would call and do, just help me get through this. So I called my parents and I said, I need you to come get me. There's a crisis and I need to come home for a while. So I think I had like taken a week or two off of work so I didn't have to think about work. And my parents came and picked me up and we got in the van, and my friend helped me get my suitcase and she gave me a hug and said, call me and I'll be here for you and we'll take care of things at the house, at the apartment or whatever. So I went on the hour-long car ride with my parents that night to go to their house, where all my siblings were still living. And I'm not sure now that I think back on it, like what I was trying to do by going to their house, because there wasn't there was a lot of space or privacy, and there wasn't anything that I could get there that I couldn't get with my friends at my own apartment. Yeah, I don't want to get into the details of talking to my parents about it because that is its own story for another day. I did tell them what happened. And by the time we got to their house, I said, this is my story and this is my trauma that's happening right now in real time. Please don't talk about it with other people. Please let me have this moment. I had to say this to my parents because I knew that it was going to hurt them to see me hurting, and that they were going to try to nurture my pain and their own pain by trying to problem solve. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be left alone. I wanted to have some time to process. And I wanted to be if anyone was going to talk about what was happening with me, I wanted it to be me. I didn't want my parents telling my story. So I specifically said, please don't talk about this. I remember specifically asking them not to talk about it because I needed to know that I could safely process it without other people talking about it behind my back. And I didn't want the narrative coming from anyone but me. And I still cared about my fiance. I didn't want everyone in the whole town hating him. So I still felt a level of protection and loyalty for him. Like, I don't know why. I didn't want anything to get worse. So I ended up staying at my parents' for 2 weeks in my sister's room. And I remember covering the window with blankets and just hanging blankets over the window so the sun couldn't get in. Laying in bed, crying for 2 weeks. And I remember my fiance immediately went into like crisis management. Like the day that I'm crying on my mentor's couch and confronting the girl, he's calling my family and our pastors and my brother and saying, I think I fucked up. Like, I can't lose her. Help me. You know, he was in his own crisis mode. So it was extremely complicated and painful and traumatic. And I think it was for both of us, honestly. I think he was traumatized by his own behavior. I think he hated himself for what he did. I think that it was difficult for him to face the fact that he did that, just period, but that he also did it to me. Because I do think he loved me. I think he cared about me, and I don't think that he wanted to traumatize me. He was not like a narcissist at all. I think that he just was a broken young man and acted out in a way that would make him feel relief and give him a way out of the relationship that didn't require him to break up with me directly. So that's kind of like what I came to as an adult, processing all that. I think that, yeah, the aftermath was a fucking blur. Lots of emotional highs and lows. I don't think that I dealt with it in the most healthy way. Well, he begged me to not dump him, to please just talk through some things, like just listen to me. Let me talk to you about it. I don't want to lose you. I don't want anybody else. Please just let's talk through it. Let's go to therapy and we'll figure this out. Like, you don't have to marry me, but please don't end things with me. So we kind of like, I don't remember the exact timeline. I think I've kind of blocked it out for the most part, but like, well, I stayed at my parents for the 2 weeks following the day that I found out. And him and I were talking during those 2 weeks because I remember someone calling me and telling me he was calling everybody trying to fix it. And I was like, what? Because I thought he was going to be like, ooh, she found out, I'm free. You know, like I thought that's what he wanted, was for the relationship to be over. But he was calling people and begging them to help. And can you please get Holly to forgive me? Like, can you get her to give me a second chance, or whatever the fuck he was saying? I don't even know. Yeah, we talked a lot. After a couple months, we saw each other, I think, or like a month or two. I don't know. We saw each other. We talked a lot. We were extremely enmeshed. I didn't know who I was without him. And it was like, I couldn't let go of all of it at the same time. I couldn't let go of the wedding and the relationship and the family and everything at the same time. I just couldn't do it. So I entertained him. I entertained the idea of repairing the relationship, and I went to therapy with him. There were some very specific topics that we were discussing that we did not align on, that were kind of the root of the problem. So we kind of got to that in therapy, in the 2 years of therapy that we went to after the cheating. I did give the ring back. And I called off the wedding. There was no fucking way I was going to stand up there and exchange vows with someone who did that to me. I could sit in therapy and talk through things, but I was not about to say till death do us part when I was literally about to kill him. I was like, well, yeah, death do us part. I'll fucking do you apart right now with some death, bro. Yeah, I knew I could not exchange vows and like put a ring on my finger, but I was open to therapy and talking about it, which is what we did for 2 fucking years. Every week we went to therapy and argued about these root issues that we could not, get aligned on. And some of them were tied to the infidelity. I remember after 2 years, the therapist, we were sitting in her, like on the couch in front of her, and she was like, I remember specifically, she said, you guys are treading water. You're going nowhere. And you need to decide if you can move through these, differences and move on, or if you need to go your separate ways. But you can't just keep doing this for another, 10 years or whatever the fuck you're doing. She didn't say it like that. I'm paraphrasing in my own language. She was a very nice older Christian woman who I still talk to, and I send her a Christmas card every year. I value very much relationships and staying connected, especially with people who have changed my life, and she's one of them. So she kind of called us out and told us to shit or get off the pot. And I remember my fiance turning to me in that moment on her couch, and he said, I can't do this. This is too hard. You are too complicated. You're very difficult, and I don't want to do this. He said that to me, to my face. And I was already dead inside at this point because he had fucking killed every spark that ever lived inside of me. It was gone. And I just said, okay, you're fucking whack, but fine. And we walked out of that therapy appointment and got in my truck. I think I was driving that day, we were in different cars. Thank God. We weren't living together, which as it turns out was because he didn't want to be with me in the long term anyways. He wouldn't live with me because he didn't want to live with me ever. It's really hard to not, it is a challenge. It's an exercise to not talk badly about people who hurt you like this. Because in this moment, as I'm telling the story, I want to call him names and say hurtful things, but those versions of us, of both him and I, are very old, and I could probably call myself some names. I wasn't a piece of cake back then. I was not emotionally mature. I was not independent. I was very smothering and controlling, and I can acknowledge that. However, I did not deserve what happened to me, and what he did was very wrong, and it completely devastated me, and it broke every cell in my body, and I had to rebuild from the ground up after that. I was literally never the same. And I say that because everything I've said up to this point about how I didn't have any future plan without him, that became very, very clear after we officially broke things off for good. And I hadn't even been wearing the ring. We weren't even engaged, but after we decided not to talk and that we weren't going to be in each other's lives anymore, I was not okay. I didn't know how to be okay. I didn't know how to be me. I didn't know who me was. I was completely empty and lost. And life felt like a black hole. I have not gotten emotional about this story in a very long time, but thinking back onto how I felt is sad. It makes me sad for how deeply that wounded me. Because it's still there. And I don't mind like sharing this right now. I'm being vulnerable intentionally. I'm sharing this with you because I think this is a common experience in relationships. This happens a lot. And maybe this can be a cautionary tale, or maybe this can be, relatable or whatever, for you to hear this. But it broke me to my core. I had to completely rebuild myself. And I hope that we don't cheat on each other, because it's not worth that. He has to live with himself knowing he did that to me. He knows that he broke me, and he gets to live the rest of his life knowing that. I am the broken one who has to live the rest of my life like the Iron Giant, calling all my pieces back to me. I love that movie, and that's part of the reason why, because I felt like the Iron Giant, or I was like, in that movie, he's calling back all the pieces to himself to put himself back together. And that's how I felt. I was like, time to recruit my pieces back together and rebuild myself and my life. Yeah, my emotions are coming from the memories of how deeply hurt. There are no words in language to express the level of devastation and just absolute crushed brokenheartedness because of the level of enmeshment and the level of codependency I had on him. And that was not his fault. My attachment to him was not his fault, and it was not healthy. And I hope that it didn't break him. I don't think it did. I think he's done better in life than I have. It certainly could appear that way. He has made a really good life for himself since then, at least to my knowledge. And I am glad to know that. I don't want him to suffer, and I don't want me to suffer. I don't want him to have bad things for the rest of his life. I don't think that he deserves that. I think he deserves forgiveness and healing, and I really hope that he found that. I don't know, because we do not speak, and we have not spoken in a long time. After we called it off in that therapy appointment, we did see each other at a wedding, and then we had In-N-Out Burger together for dinner one time. And I remember him continuing to beg me for a future relationship together. I was making moves to relocate myself from California to Seattle because I didn't want to live in the place that I had grown up with him and built a life with him. I needed to get out of that environment and start fresh somewhere else. So I was making plans to transfer with my job. I was finding a place to live. I was getting rid of my belongings. I was saving up my money. I was packing up my shit, and I was planning to go to Seattle. And I told him that. And I said, I eventually told him I was leaving And I remember the day that I packed up my 4Runner with all my stuff and I was supposed to leave for, hit the road the next morning really early. And he said, I would like to say goodbye to you the night before you go. And I was like, okay, because we didn't know if we were going to ever see each other again. I should have said no, but I went to his work. I drove to the mega church he was working at, where he was a lighting and audio guy. And he met me in the parking lot and he said, why don't you come inside to my office? And we went into the church offices and we sat on the couch, and it was very awkward, and like we didn't really know how to talk to each other. We had been best friends and lovers for almost 8 years, and then now I'm telling him I'm leaving and like saying goodbye and I don't know if I'll ever see you again. And he was crying. I didn't feel any emotions. I felt dead inside, and like he had killed everything inside of me at that moment. So I didn't have any emotional response to this meeting, but I remember him sitting next to me on the couch, and I was just kind of looking at him kind of, empathetically, kind of not. And he's crying and saying like he feels guilty for what happened, and he hopes that someday I can be okay, and he can't picture his life without me, and he wants to marry me, and he wants to have kids with me. And it's like escalating. I think his anxiety was escalating, and it was making him say things that were very confusing for me to hear. And he was very emotional, and I was just kind of sitting there like a dead frog, just like I have nothing inside of me. I was completely gone and just listening and like, okay, why did you cheat on me and do all this I was like, okay, bro, like save it. And I said, we kind of finished the conversation. I was like, I don't know what to say. I should probably go. I got to get up early, and I'm not staying here for you. Like, I'm going to Seattle and I'm never coming back. And he walked me to my truck, and I got in the truck, and I'm sitting, and I'm like, I have to go. And he's crying, and I give him a hug, and I start to leave, and he gets in front of my car, and he's like, stop, you can't go. And he's crying like the fucking Notebook. And he comes up to the driver's side window, and I roll the window down, and he's passionately kissing me on the mouth and just crying, and I love you, and I can't imagine like doing life without you. Like, what have I done? And just kind of like he was having a spiral moment that he was involving me in, and I felt confused and frustrated, and like I was doing the right thing by leaving, because I'm like, this is a shit show. And the next day I got in the car with my best friend, and she was going with me to do the drive to Seattle, and I told her what was going on, and I told her what happened, and like we talked about it, and we drove to San Francisco. It was like a 9-hour drive, and we had a hotel room in San Francisco that night before we finished the trip the next day, and some of our other friends were there, and we were playing a show or whatever, and we're all musicians. Music was a part of all of this. I wrote my album during this time leading up to my move to Seattle, but we'll talk about that. All the songs on my album are a reflection on this period in my life. We can talk about that another time, but I'm in this hotel room with my friend, and her and I are in bed. We've got our jammies on, we turn the lights off, and I'm laying down with my phone. And I'm just checking social media before I go to bed, and I'm just chilling out, winding down after 9 hours of driving in California. And I see my ex-fiance, the day after passionately kissing me and begging me for some kind of vague future together, I see he posted a picture on Instagram of him at a rock climbing gym. He liked to go rock climbing. And a different girl posted a comment on the picture that said, I'm one lucky girl. And it was a really cute picture of him. And then she says, I'm one lucky girl. And I said, what does that mean? Another one? So I looked at her profile, and there were 3 months worth of pictures of them together. They had been dating long distance. They met on the internet, and I gathered all this information from her posts and her statuses, her captions and stuff. Had shared her new boyfriend, and they had 3 months worth of pictures together. So I did the math that, you know, all this time he's had a girlfriend that he was dating long distance on the internet. And I remember sitting up in the hotel room in the dark going, what the fuck? What? And it just solidified it. This is why I never came back to California. I knew that moving to Seattle by myself and starting a new life all over again from nothing was going to be extremely painful and difficult. But it would never, ever be as painful and difficult as this fuckery of a relationship. And I knew in that moment that I was never coming back. And I didn't care if staying in Seattle killed me and I died there by myself. I was never coming back to this fucking shithole of a place where all this bullshit happened. And I had nothing good there, you know, to show for that time. Like, it just was like, fuck all of you. I'm on the northern tip of California, and as soon as I get the fuck into Oregon, I'm done with this place. I was over it. I was absolutely sick of his shit. And I couldn't believe that he was making out with me and crying and telling me he wanted me to have his kids while he had another girlfriend that he, you know, I'm like, what is enough for you? I would have loved you until you were dead. I would have given you whatever life you wanted. And nothing is good enough for you. To this day, I don't understand people who do this to each other. I've never, ever fucked with anyone like this. I don't cheat on people because you ruin them. Why would you do that? Anyways. Yeah, even to this day, I'm just like, I don't get it. We could have had something, bro. We could have had something. You fucked it up, and then you fucked it up again somehow, even though it was over. And yeah, I can acknowledge that was a long time ago. I hope that he has changed. I'm sure he has. I have changed significantly, but it absolutely destroyed me. And I really don't think you ever fully like recover. Like, I'm not like, I'm recovered, I'm over it. Like, I was shaped by that life event, and every relationship going forward has been and will be affected in some way by that, by the level of betrayal, the level of absolute devastation, the level of pain, the level of gaslighting. It was max the fuck out, and I can't undo it. It is part of me now. The trauma was long lasting, left permanent scars, and will affect me on different levels for the rest of my life. I have accepted that as a fact, and it gets much easier as time goes on. I look forward to like 10 years from now when this is a very, very, very distant memory. Because again, this all happened in 2009, and then we officially stopped talking in 2012 when I moved. I moved in the beginning of 2012. I actually did see him recently. It was maybe, I don't know, it was a few years ago in the summer. A mutual friend of ours got married, and we saw each other at the wedding. I was aware, I was warned in advance that he was a part of the wedding and would therefore be present for the whole thing. And that if it made me uncomfortable to be around him, I didn't have to go. And I was like, I don't fucking care. It's been forever. He's like married with kids now. Like, who gives a fuck? So I was in a different place in my life at that point. I went into this wedding 3 years ago. Yeah, it was 3 years ago. It was June 2018, and I was in a relationship, but my partner wasn't my date to the wedding. Someone else, my sister-in-law, was my date to the wedding because she knew the people getting married. So anyways, I knew he was going to be there, and I was like, I'm cool. Like, it's totally fine. I don't fucking care. And then I got drunk and smoked weed at the reception. And what I thought was I'm okay, I ended up like kind of numbing myself a little bit. I was drinking wine, I was smoking a J, and it was a very chill backyard wedding. And I was like, I'm cool. Like, I'm fucking cool. And I think I was just trying to avoid tapping into these feelings again. Because it's complicated. It's like, I really don't wish bad things for him, and I don't like have bad thoughts, but I don't like being reminded, if that makes sense. I don't want to remember. I remember because I have no choice. And I'm telling this story, I'm tapping into this story again now to be vulnerable and share this experience so that you can maybe know you're not alone if you've been through this, to also kind of heal myself, you know, by putting it out there and telling my truth and my version. I can absolutely acknowledge that I had a part in the dysfunction of that relationship, but I did not deserve how it ended. I did not deserve the gaslighting and the infidelity. And I told him that. I said, why did you propose to me? Why did you put a ring on my finger, bro? Just break up with me. Tell me you don't want to get married and say, buzz off, Holly. I would have preferred you do that. And he said, because it was what everybody expected. We were dating for 5 years and everybody expected us to get married. And I said, I expected you to want to marry me. I didn't want a proposal that came from a place of obligation. I want to marry someone who wants me. You fucking motherfucker. And he was just like, I'm scared. He was scared the whole time. He said he was not ready to get married, and he knew that, and he proposed anyways. And that's his baggage, and that's his issue. And I don't know the details of that, but that was what he told me. Because I'm like, why propose when you're not ready and you don't want to marry me? Why beg me to go to 2 years of therapy only to tell me I'm too complicated and I want too much? He told me that I wanted too much, and I was like, what, a faithful husband? I didn't realize that was like asking for so much. I want someone who's honest and real and doesn't gaslight and doesn't lie. Like, I want someone like me, because I've made it a very serious point in my life to be the opposite of what he was to me. And he wasn't the only one who treated me like that. So we'll get into that later. I hope that the consensus that you've come to from this episode is some self-reflection. I hope that you can respect my story and have compassion on me and have compassion on him if you know him, or even if you don't. I hope that if you are in a similar situation or have been, or if you are in the future, that you know you're not alone and that people change. Time does heal. It never fully goes away, but at least in my experience, it fades. It's like a scar. Scars are always there, but they're not always an open wound, you know? They heal and they fade, and you forget about them, and then you remember them again, and then you forget about them, and it just becomes a more distant memory as time goes on. So yeah, I look forward to furthering my own healing. And I hope the same for all of you. I hope you have a loving, committed relationship with yourself, and that you have a loving, committed relationship with someone else if that's what you want also. And I hope that you've never felt what I felt when I was 21. But if you did, I'm sorry. And you're going to be okay. I care about you. I hope good things for you. And I hope you can move on from this episode with some insight and compassion and forgiveness and some fresh perspective. Thanks for being here. Thank you for listening. I will catch up with you on episode 3.